Hey, welcome, David here at the AmCon American Construction Design and Contract Manufacturing Expo. I've been coming to this for quite a few years. This one focuses on American companies that help design and manufacturing in the old school contract bidding method. So some of the other conferences I record are more international. So this one focuses on American companies and mostly the variety of what they call contract manufacturing, where you come up with an idea and you bid it out to a manufacturer to make it for you. And that could be a competitive bidding process, or like most economic fields these days, or you could just work out a deal with one of these companies, and most of these companies specialize in either design or manufacture that they contract bid. So for example, any of these various widgets that someone might need for one of their ideas, these are likely for a larger appliance or larger piece, and to say they need thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands or millions of a given widget, and then they'll contract it out to a given manufacturer to make. And there's competition, so the technology has changed. I've been coming to this for quite a few years, where you have an increase in 3D printing and your additive methods as opposed to old school CNC. So here you have old school manufacturing methods, die casting, plastic mold injection, metal mold injection, CNCing versus newer things. And then you even have people who write out a microchip. So if you actually had a device, some sort of handheld digital technological device, and you wanted to have a chip made for it, so there's companies that make chips here, and there's bigger companies, smaller companies. Some companies just specialize in one small thing. If it's metal stamping is very important. So there's huge companies that have all the equipment and expertise to make any sort of metal widget, and they'll bid on projects, is usually how the business works. To laser cutting, scanning. So the change in technology over the years to laser cutting, precision computer technology that will guide the manufacturing, as opposed to, I was trained on an old CNC machine, and you actually had to set it, and you had these big spindle wheels, and you could still get quite a bit of accuracy. Hey, Shalom. You could get quite a bit of accuracy with the old school CNCs, even within like a thousandth of a millimeter. But now these days they're all computer controlled, and so I used to be more straight, like capitalistic entrepreneurship, like ideas. Let's open up a business. Let's make some money. It's not a mitzvah to be poor. Type mindset, and then I changed a little bit. Became more theological, religious, less attached to business, money, and possessions. But yeah, if the best way to obviously owning real estate, being a landlord, is the best way to become wealthy. But not everyone could be a landlord. Obviously, it's pyramidal in the type way. You could own your own property, but so without going to landlord, the generic paths, the best way to become extremely wealthy is to come up with an invention, patent it, and sell millions of copies. You're even like a published author or book or CD, and any type device that if you could sell to millions of people. And so these days with 3D printing, you could prototype very easily. In the olden days, it might have been more expensive to prototype an idea. So if you did have a little widget or something that you were thinking about, and you had to make a model, you probably had to go through difficult processes of making a prototype, injection molding, hiring someone else, and it might cost thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. 3D printing could still be relatively expensive, to own your own 3D printing machine. However, now there's multiple companies here that will prototype 3D printed ideas, and it's unclear. I mean, most things are usually better off the old school stamped, casted, injection molding than 3D printing. But for prototypes, 3D printing has pretty much changed. So here's Hawk Ridge Systems, company that completely specializes in 3D design, manufacturing, printing, prototyping. So it's unclear whether some of these devices you could pay. There's companies that have large amounts of 3D printers, and you could just pay them to make as many of your devices you want. And these days you even have metal injection, metal filament printing. You could print in titanium, metal. They don't have any of those machines on display today. So the old school process of entrepreneurship, where you come up with an idea, you make a mold of it, a model, and once you get a working model, you might get some customers, and then you need to make up those pieces and have enough of the various pieces to distribute. And as I've talked about at some of these past conferences here in Metro Detroit, this conference, a lot of these are national companies. Even national is somewhat international, so you have international companies with registered companies here in America, but this specifically is American companies, although some of these American companies are international conglomerates that have registered in America branches, for the legal structures of how they go about doing that. But as I said in the previous videos, manufacture in many ways is automotive or bust, because automotive is this huge single largest segment of manufacturing, that if you could get your device into the automotive process, you could conceivably sell tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of devices. So if you could come up with a device that is useful for all types of cars, you could sell tens of millions of pieces, and sometimes some of these pieces might even have multiple devices in the same car, let alone to having, very good, excellent, let alone to have one widget in one model of car that might have tens or hundreds of thousands. So you're just thinking about how you increase in your business for increasing your manufacturing and coming up with an idea, getting it in some larger product, maybe getting it in a whole bunch. And eventually most of these places that successfully do that will in-house their own manufacture of the product, although you might make quite a few pieces before you in-house it. And there's all these various companies that specialize in contract bidding manufacturing jobs and will make these devices for you. So the battery show or something where you have all these issues like being made in China or something. So these are all made in American companies that will use the various manufacturing methods available to make basically whatever you need. Combination of processes, various processes. Depending on if you're more scientific, you'll have specifications that are numeric, that you have an exact of the various physical quantities that explain what your device is and what your device needs to be able to withstand in terms of durability, heat, the various forces that might cause the device to eventually fail. So you'll have your exact specifications that you want to meet, and the companies will discuss with you the various methods of making it that might cause it to have a better or worse specification. Sometimes there's trade-offs where different methods give better results in the various forms of specifications. So there's a lot to know. So you could speak to some of the people. A lot of people are sales, some are more scientific engineers. And if you actually had a product that you wanted, like, so here you have performance electronics, custom design solutions, and they have, boards. These might include a microchip, and if it was a device you're going to make, like something for an automobile or a handheld or just some sort of readout meter. And obviously, like the automation, like this conference isn't specializing in automation, but like automation, usually those things are included. But if you had a device and you wanted a readout thing, and you were curious like how much it costs to add a digital readout that includes various numbers or specifications on a screen that reads out the data, and it might not be that expensive. It's the Cymic. I'm not sure. I mean, there's probably a few. Someone gave me a Shalom, and obviously, the Expo hall here is owned by Mr. Fisher, a Jewish man. But manufacturer is not generally a big Jewish field. So, there's some engineers or financial aspects, but there's usually not necessarily that many Jews in manufacturing conferences. More from global, like so the battery conference or automotive testing, you might have people that either have ideas or patent on the business end and are more middlemanning financial transactions that are just stepping in to be a middleman between U.S. and China or various things trying to make a buck. So here you have the direct manufacturers. These are the people representative of the companies that will make the product and people that are making something. And there's less need for intermediaries and maybe traditional Jewish professions. But I mean, you still might have loans and credit. I don't even see any credit or loan companies here. So, usually you have just a direct transaction between the person who desires the product and the maker of the product. So, very nice, the various 3D printed solutions. So as I said, either you have a prototype and you just come in here, this is what I got, can you make it? You might go through various iterations of trying to make your product, or you may have a product that you want, and you might have an exact number. You might have a customer, you might have a deadline, you might have a customer who already has ordered the product and you need it by a certain time, and you're looking, and it's kind of like a zero-sum game of the profit margin. If you sold like 10,000 pieces for $3 each, that's $30,000, and if you could get it made for $20,000, that's $10,000 profit. If it you could get it made for $15,000, that's $15,000 profit. So a lot of the negotiation in terms of that is a zero sum, where the profit is going to go on one side of the negotiation. There's various financial considerations, and that's more what I do. My field would be more financial than manufacturing. But I like to come to this conference and see the various pieces being made, and usually it's not super crowded, this conference, but a lot of the people here are serious about manufacturing, and this is a national conference that tours around the country. So a lot of these people, some of them might have, if it's a national company, or even if its facilities are located in one area, some of them have local representatives, or you could be like a part-time local representative. This is Metro Detroit in the suburbs. The Detroit itself is segregated or divided, if you know the region. So this is a place called Novi, Michigan, which is in the suburbs. So I guess I've shown enough of this. It's a little interesting. See the kind of widgets being made and stuff coming, and people who tuned into it. I might go around, shake some hands, pick up some reading material. So I'm not, currently, there's looking at modern sprout, 47,000 units built in 6 months. Looks like some sort of like home planting device. So, and any various form of what your interest is in, and you see that there might be a better way of doing it, like something, a lot of times the solutions for these products is related to something that you want that you can't find. So I mean, if you're trying, if especially if you're in manufacture, but even for like a home appliance, somebody would just be a random person that you really thought it'd be easier if you had a certain type device and found out it didn't exist, and then looked into how to make that device. So, but usually it's handyman type manufacturer technicians that are more astute to what type of device might be needed or would help out their facilities, and they come up with it, and then sometimes it's people who've done quite a bit of them that once they've done one or two of them, they could constantly be improving or making better devices. But you just say like, okay, I'm trying to do something, and like if there was this type thing, it would make it a bunch easier. And you look into it, it doesn't exist, and they say, can I make it? And then you got to prototype it, and then once you prototype it, you could use it for your own uses, and then you could try to sell it on the general market. You get patents and customers and specifications. You might need various models. You might not be able to have a single device that is useful for all purposes. So these are all manufacturing considerations, and anyone in the business field of this would be more than familiar with what I'm talking about. So pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the conference. Not that much. I'll be going on tomorrow also, so anybody in Metro Detroit that's interested in contract manufacturing. I had a friend who asked me, a roommate who always had these investment schemes in New York about companies that would print out chips for various devices. So there's multiple companies here. I mean, it's not cheap, so anything that you want done, like even if you just wanted one prototype of a device that had some sort of readout in multiple components. So if you just wanted like a metal widget or a widget that could be 3D printed, it may not be that expensive. However, if you wanted a device that had multiple plastics, metals, electronics, it might cost you thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to make your own prototype. As opposed to just a widget that if you designed it and you could send it to like a 3D printing company, maybe have it made for tens, hundreds of dollars, and if it doesn't work out good, the second one you could have made for less, and then once you get the exact one that you want, you may be able to have many copies of it made relatively cheaply, as opposed to a complicated device like like a new handheld or something, or use whatever you thought, cell phone accessory or anything sensor that you thought would make some process easier or part of life easier, that you might first make one for yourself that might cost you hundreds of dollars, and to consider patenting and prototyping and trying to sell and being entrepreneurial, and let alone just someone who loves manufacturing processes, that likes making things and will make a business off of making things for other people, where you may not make anything on your own, and you might business be completely structured on just manufacturing and making other people's products, which is the majority of the business here, although I'm sure a lot of these companies are large companies that have their own lines or part of bigger conglomerates. So I guess that's all I'm gonna say for now. Thanks for tuning in. Blessings to the residents of Michigan and America and the world, and hope to get more stuff, more science programming, manufacturing, and various things, and I would even move a different direction in my streaming to have things like prototyping, modeling, ideas, venture capital type stuff. That's, I guess, semi-related to the JQ, because there's a domination of various entities in that field. But that was initially what my training was in, and could talk to people through. My father, he is now a medical doctor, but he had been an attorney and even a patent attorney. So talk people through their ideas, try to get it prototyped, They need investors, find them investors in various things. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to move in that direction. But I encourage people too, and to be entrepreneurial and to keep pushing technology and progress forward. So take care, everyone. Be blessed.